Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 12 running back rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season in PPR leagues. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel, if you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 12 running back rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season. We begin with the cream of the crop, S tier at number 1, my number 1 running back for 2023 fantasy football. We have Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers, current underdog ADP running back 1 at pick 3.9. He was the running back 2 in PPR last season, as well as in PPR points per game. Obviously, he played the start of the season for the Carolina Panthers prior to being traded for the San Francisco 49ers, playing in 17 games with 16 starts. He was top 10 in carries, as well as rushing yards, 244 carries, 9th, 1,139 rushing yards, 7th. He had 107 targets, 85 receptions, both top 2 at the running back position. He had the most receiving yards as a running back, and he scored 13 total touchdowns, number 3 at the running back position. We all know how great Christian McCaffrey is, right? I don't have to give this guy the Gawk Gawk 9000 special for you guys to realize how great of a running back Christian McCaffrey is. There's a reason why people might even consider taking him number 1 overall in 2023 fantasy football drafts. The guy's an elite runner, he's an elite pass catcher, and he is on an offense that is designing plays to get him the ball. Regardless of if it's Trey Lance or Big Cock Brock Purdy, I think Christian McCaffrey is a lock to be a top 3 running back, and it should be easy to forecast him as the running back 1 in all of fantasy football. At number 2, we have Austin Ekeler of the LA Chargers, underdog ADP running back 2 at pick 8.6, the running back 1 in PPR last year and in PPR points per game. This is another running back that is just cream of the crop in terms of receiving volume as well as rushing upside. These are the 2 best dual threat running backs in the National Football League. 204 carries last year, 20th at running back, but it doesn't really matter because even with just 12 carries per game, he had 915 rushing yards, 17th, 128 targets, number 1, 107 receptions, number 1, 722 receiving yards, number 2, and 18 total touchdowns, number 1 at running back. This is an offense designed to give the rock to Austin Ekeler, even with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston, and Gerald Everett, all these guys healthy. Justin Herbert, the pervert, loves to dump the rock off. I think Austin Ekeler has the upside to finish back-to-back seasons with the most total touchdowns at the running back position. This is a guy that you could easily see getting 2,000 all-purpose yards. Now, obviously, that's going to be his best season ever, but it is definitely possible. 915 rushing yards last year, 722 receiving yards. I don't think 2,000 all-purpose yards is out of the realm of possibilities. To close out the S tier, we have Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons, current underdog ADP running back 3 at pick 9.8. Obviously played his college career in Texas from 2020 to 2022, and he racked up back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He played in 12 games last year, having 258 rushing attempts, 1,580 rushing yards, 19 receptions for 314 receiving yards, and 20 total touchdowns. Now, I know you might be a little worried. Nick, he only caught 19 passes in 2022. What I will tell you is that the Texas offense wasn't necessarily designed to give him the ball. In terms of throwing him the ball, obviously they wanted to run the ball a bunch with him. But when you look at the actual tape, when he does get the ball, he is incredibly explosive. He's a guy that can run a motherfucker over, even though he's not the biggest running back on earth. Everyone you have heard talk about fantasy football, everyone you heard talking about the NFL draft has talked up Bijan Robinson. We all know just how great these 3 running backs are. I understand that some people might be a little bit cautious because he's a rookie running back, but this Atlanta Falcons offense loves to run the football. They would be getting bent over in a game. They would be getting absolutely super soaked by the other team's offense. down 14, down 18 in the fourth quarter, and they're still running the ball. Bijan Robinson is a workhorse running back with very good pass catching upside, even if his college career won't tell you that just by looking at the numbers again. If you look at the tape, you can see that he is a great pass catcher. Moving now to the A tier, beginning with Saquon Barkley. Now, some people might argue, hey, you could throw Saquon over Bijan, or you could throw Saquon in the S tier. I wouldn't really argue too much with you on that. Currently coming off the board on Underdog Fantasy is the RB6 at pick 18.2, running back 5 in PPR, and the running back 5 in points per game, playing in 16 games last year. He was top 5 in carries and rushing yards, with 295 carries, ranking 4th, and 1,312 rushing yards. Saquon also ranked top 8 in targets and receptions, 6th in targets, 7th in receptions, 14th in receiving yards, and number 10 in total touchdowns with 10 total touchdowns. This Giants offense did a complete and utter 180 in 2022, right? In prior years, Daniel Jones didn't really look the best. The coaching was far from ideal, but when Brian Daboll stepped foot in this facility, everything changed. It's like one of those old cartoons where the light bulb flicks above your head. Now, obviously, Saquon's been successful. If I was the fucking quarterback, right, he would be successful anyways. But the fact that this offense is able to move the ball much better, Daniel Jones looks a lot better, tells me that Saquon is in great position to not only get a bunch of rushing yards, targets, receptions, all that, but also in position to score more touchdowns, I think, going forward. Obviously, the Giants don't have the greatest wide receiver core, but I think Brian Daboll is doing great things there. The only worry with Barkley right now, and honestly why I assume he's coming off the board as the RB6, is the contract situation. But if I'm being honest with you, I would be completely shocked if they didn't figure that out by September. Moving to running back number 5, still in the A tier, we got my guy, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. Underdog ADP running back 4 at pick 16.8. Running back 6 in PPR last season, running back 7 in points per game. Playing in 17 games, he was top 3 in carries and rushing yards. 302 carries, 1,525 rushing yards. 37 targets, 27 receptions, both outside the top 30. 239 receiving yards, 24th, and 13 total touchdowns. Number 3 at running back, he was top 10 in true yards per carry. He was number 13 in yards per touch, 4th in juke rate, and 6th in yards created. This was Nick Chubb in an offense that was pretty volatile last year, right? Jacoby Brissett did well, but once Deshaun Watson took the reins of this offense, it started to go down, right? Everything went wrong. Now, I would genuinely be perplexed if Deshaun Watson comes back in 2023 and plays like he did in 2022. I think there was a lot of rust on Deshaun Watson, and I think this is going to be an offense that looks a lot better under him in 2023. We also have the added upside that Kareem Hunt is gone, and there's a lot of rumors that Nick Chubb might even be seeing more pass catching work. We saw him be a pretty solid pass catcher in college, and I think that he can do it at the NFL level as well. So big upside for Nick Chubb, and again, I think this Browns offense is going to look a hell of a lot better in 2023. Closing out the A tier, we got Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts, current Underdog ADP running back 5 at pick 17. Now, obviously, if you drafted Jonathan Taylor last year with the number 1 overall pick, you felt burned by him, right? Because it was a disaster of sorts in Indianapolis. Not just Jonathan Taylor, the ship completely fucking sunk, right? Nothing went right. The offensive line that looked great in prior years was fucking terrible. They were a sieve. They were awful. The quarterback situation, they went from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. They were probably thinking, hallelujah, the bad man Carson Wentz is gone. And then Matt Ryan literally looked like Stevie Wonder out there trying to throw the ball, right? And then they get rid of Frank Reich. They bring in their old center to be the head coach of the team. Now they bring in Stitchen to be the head coach. They draft Anthony Richardson to be the guy. Anthony Richardson, great at rushing. This is a team that's going to be tailored toward the rushing game, and that's going to boost Mr. Jonathan Taylor himself. Obviously, last year, again, things weren't great. Running back 33 in PPR and 18 in PPR points per game, tied with Jamal Williams, but I want you to kind of forget last season and think about just how great he was in 2021. Obviously, if you drafted Jonathan Taylor in 2022, you might be a little bit hesitant, but I think he bounces back in a big way this year. 192 carries, 861 rushing yards, both outside of the top 20, 40 targets, 28 receptions, 143 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. His efficiency wasn't great last year, 4.2 true yards per carry, 30th. He was 24th in yards created, but again, everything went wrong. I don't think that Jonathan Jonathan Taylor is Peyton Hillis. He's not this one-year wonder. He is a legitimate, amazing NFL talent. I always thought so coming out of Wisconsin, and I think the Indianapolis Colts team, again, I don't think they're going to win 12 fucking games or something. I don't think they're magically just some Super Bowl contenders with Anthony Richardson in year one. But I think things are building towards a much better offense, and I feel very confident in JT bouncing back. But I get if you were like, you know what? I think Saquon and Chubb, they're tier A. Let me drop Jonathan Taylor to tier number B. I wouldn't really tier number B, tier letter B. I wouldn't argue too much with that if I'm being completely honest with you. Speaking of tier B, we got Josh Jacobs, RB number 7 of the Las Vegas Raiders. Underdog ADP running back 10 at pick number 28. Before we can break down Josh Jacobs, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, they're the best place to play best ball fantasy football this summer. And if you don't know what best ball is, it's the most fun part about fantasy football. It's the draft, and that's it. You have an 18-round draft, and then you just wait till the end of the season, because what's going to happen is there's no trades, there's no waiver wire, and there's no in-season management. Underdog every single week will take from your 18-player roster that you drafted and put the highest scoring players in your lineup. So you don't have to worry about accidentally starting the wrong running back. You don't have to worry about your player getting hurt and then you're scoring 3 points and some guy on your bench scores 25 points, right? You don't have to worry about that at all. And they have the biggest best ball contest ever. $25 to enter the Best Ball Mania 4, 150 max entries, $15 million in total prizes, $3 million to first place. If you want to be entering something that's not as big of a price tag to get in, right? If you're new, I totally get that. They got the Chihuahua, but super flex, $4 to enter, 25 max entries, $250K in total prizes, $25K to first. They're also going to drop puppy contests, which are only $5 to enter. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, this sounds interesting to you. Sign up using promo code Notorious. You will get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So you deposit 100, they give an additional 100. If you only want to do 50, an additional 50, 25, an additional 25. Make sure you guys do check that out. I love Underdog Fantasy. Back to Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is another guy where there is a bit of a contract dispute. Obviously, he is on the franchise tag, but he does not want to play on that. That is something to worry about, definitely. It is July as I'm making today's video, July 1st, so we don't know how things are going to go. I assume everything's going to be just fine, but if you wanted to put Josh Jacobs maybe at the end of the B tier because you're nervous about maybe he doesn't fucking play week 1, or maybe this is a Lev Bell situation and he's going to go ride around in a jet ski in Miami. That's definitely something you might be worried about. I think everything will end up working out, but what do I know, right? Running back 3 in PPR and 3 in PPR points per game. This guy was someone who I full faded last year, running back by committee, Josh McDaniel, this, that, and the other thing, and then it's the exact opposite. Josh Jacobs is the fucking bell cow, and the guy played out of his mind. He was amazing. 340 carries, number 2, 1,653 rushing yards, almost 100 per game, number 1, 65 targets, 11th, 53 receptions, 10th, 400 receiving yards, 8th, and 12 total touchdowns, 6th. He was number 1 in yards created, 23rd in true yards per carry, 18th in yards created per touch, and 11th in juke rate. Again, with a Las Vegas Raiders team that was pretty mid under Derek Carr. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't some humongous upgrade, but it's not like this crazy downward movement or this crazy upward movement in terms of quarterback play. I think Josh Jacobs was slept on last year because most people, myself included, were incredibly nervous about the new head coach, the fact that he loves the running back by committee. But if Jacobs is going to be the workhorse again, there is reason to believe he could easily be a top 5 running back, so I think running back 7 is very fair for him. At number 8, we got Ramondre Stevenson, because it's Ramondre Stevenson. But did my voice just crack? I'm too fucking old for that. Ramondre Steven season of the New England Patriots. Underdog ADP running back 9 at pick 26.6. The running back 7 in PPR last year, running back 11 in PPR points per game. There was a lot of talk, oh, maybe it's going to be Damian Harris as the lead back. And I told everyone last year, it's Ramondre Stevenson time, motherfucker. And if you were with me, it was definitely Ramondre Stevenson time, like that dude who used to rock the huge clock on MTV. 17 games played, 210 carries, 17th, 1,040 rushing yards, 12th, 89 targets, 69 receptions. Very nice. I like both top 5 at running back, 421 receiving yards, 7th, and 6 total touchdowns, 22nd. He did this all in a Patriots offense that was putrid last season. Matt Patricia, I have beat this like a dead fucking horse, right? I've talked about this a ton. That guy is a buffoon. He has no idea how to run an offense. And we kind of knew that from his time in Detroit, but he becomes the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, and it doesn't work. Shocker. They bring in Bill O'Brien, who I know some people don't like too much, but Bill O'Brien is a great offensive mind. He might not be great at getting value in a trade for DeAndre Hopkins, but he is great in terms of being an offensive mind. I think this team is going to look a lot better offensively. Now, do I think they're going to go from, let's be honest, let's call a spade, right? They were one of the worst offenses in the NFL. They would have had Mac Jones, the Zapaneta, Bailey Zappi. Sure, they're not going to be the best, but could they be a middling offense? I think so, and I think that helps Stevenson a ton. Stevenson, again, the numbers say he's a great pass catcher, but not a lot of people, I feel like, know just how great of a pass catcher he is. He was 7th in yards created, 7th in yards created per touch, 18th in true yards per carry, and 3rd in evaded tackles. Ramondre Stevenson's a big boy. Obviously, they don't really have too much competition behind him. Damian Harris is now in Buffalo, and Ayo Pierre, you want to come out here? Pierre Strong is his backup running back. Never trust a bastard named Pierre to take over as the lead back. Ramondre Stevenson has got that shit on lock, and I love Ramondre Stevenson this season. I want to rank him higher, but the problem is there's a lot of good running backs inside of the top 12, and especially ahead of Stevenson, right? We got guys like Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, right? It's hard to move Stevenson over those guys, even though it's possible easily that Stevenson finishes over those guys. And moving now to running back number 9, we got D-Rock Henry of the Tennessee Titans, the Les Titans, underdog ADP running back 8 at pick 24.4. He was the RB4 in PPR last year and the RB4 in PPR points per game. Every year, it seems like we are trying to galaxy brain ourselves into thinking that Derrick Henry is just going to fucking fall off, right? But Nick, his yards per carry number has decreased every year since 2020, right? It was 5.4, then it was 4.3, and then it was 4.4, so a slight increase, but you get my point. He's old, he's 29. Let's be honest. That's not great. But they're just going to run the ball a bunch to where it doesn't matter. Unless he now goes from 4.4 yards per carry to fucking 3.6, he's still going to play great because he is the focal point of the offense. They want to run the shit out of the ball. They want to pound the defenders into submission. 21.8 carries per game last year. 349 carries, number 1. He was number 2 in rushing yards. Almost 100 rushing yards per game. 96.1. He had 41 targets, 33 receptions, 398 receiving yards. Round of applause for Derrick Henry. That's a big uptick compared to the past. Obviously, still not a great pass catcher. He has situations where they dump the ball off to him. It looks like he has stones attached to his hands. But hey, big upgrade and 13 total touchdowns. 3rd, he's 3rd in yards created, 5th in evaded tackles. His true yards per carry number sucks ass. It's 36th. But it doesn't matter. When you get as much volume as Derrick Henry, you don't need to be the most efficient running back in the NFL to be extremely successful. Moving now to running back number 10 to close out the B tier, we have Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys, underdog ADP running back 7 at pick 21.8, RB8 last year in PPR and 9 in PPR points per game. Now, I'm being honest with you. If it's August, the end of August, right, you're ramping up for your fantasy draft, and there is just the running backs they have behind Pollard right now, right? Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis. Tony Pollard is moving up the rankings. I might even consider moving him ahead of Josh Jacobs, right? The head of B tier. Maybe even bottom of A tier, right? But the problem is, I'm not too sold that Tony Pollard, I'm sold he's going to be the RB1, but I'm not sold that they're not going to just bring someone in, right? Leonard Fournette's out there. I don't think they'd bring in Kareem Hunt, but there's already been rumors after Zeke was gone that, hey, Zeke might come back. And again, we saw how shit Zeke was last year, so I don't think Zeke's going to become the lead back or something, but that's going to take opportunities from Pollard, especially on the goal line. And let's be honest, Jerry Jones just has some love affair for Zeke, and it's kind of worrisome. Like, Mike McCarthy is not the biggest genius in the NFL, so that does kind of worry me about Tony Pollard. But if we're assuming Pollard's gonna be the guy, right, and they don't bring anyone in behind him, it's Malik Davis, Deuce Vaughn, then Tony Pollard's gonna fucking smash. RB8 in PPR last year, 9 in points per game, 16 games played with 4 starts, 193 carries, 12.1 per game, 23rd, 1,007 rushing yards, 69.2 per game, 15th, 55 targets, 16th, 39 receptions, 17th, 371 receiving yards, 12th, and 12 total touchdowns, number 6, right? What running back in the NFL starts 4 fucking games and scores 12 total touchdowns? The answer is no one. Except for maybe Jamal Williams, who scored like 18, but I digress. Tony Pollard is a really good talent. He has kind of just been stuck behind Zeke, riding his coattails, and now it is his time to shine again. I think even if they bring in Fournette or Zeke, Pollard's going to be the guy, but that does definitely diminish his value. I don't know how you can argue that that's not going to affect him. Like, it's going to. Moving now to C tier. The C tier, we have one guy in this tier, and that's Breece Hall of the New York Jumbo Jets, underdog ADP running back 11 at pick 30.6. Something I'm worried about is his health. How healthy will he be in week number 1? Now, if he's good to go week 1, and they're firing on all cylinders, and it's August, and I feel like, hey, this is true, then Breece Hall is also getting moved up the rankings. Prior to his injury, obviously, he starts off the season in a bit of a committee, but then once they start really running the rock with him, once he's the starter, I mean, it was beautiful. He was really that good. 7 games played with 2 starts. He was the running back 42 in PPR, but he was 8 in points per game. Running back 8 in points per game in his rookie year. And he had to deal with Mike White, fucking Zach Wilson, Zach Wilson, and did I say Mike White? Joe Flacco. Cool Joe, right? He had these shit tier quarterbacks, and he still played great. He had 5.3 true yards per carry, third, 6.9, very nice, I like. Yards per touch, first, 50.5% juke rate, first, 11.3% breakaway run rate, second. He had 5 fucking touchdowns in 7 games, and he wasn't even the starters. He wasn't the starter for most of the games. This guy is insane. He's cracked, as the kids would say. He's amazing. We just got to know that he's healthy. We move him on up. I know this Jets offense is getting hyped up. I'm not here to do that, but even if I don't love Garrett Wilson as much as most people, I have a soft spot in my heart for Mr. Breece Hall. Moving now to the D tier to close out the video. Running back number 12. Now, some people will say, Nick, where's Najee Harris? Nick, where is Aaron Jones? Where is this other running back? Where's Travis Etienne? I got Gibbs at number 12. Now, obviously, if you want to take the approach where, hey, week 1, I need points, maybe don't draft Jahmyr Gibbs, because I think it might be a slow roll for him. Maybe early on in the season, he starts off a little bit slow, and then things start to ramp up. But I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. Underdog ADP running back 14, pick 40.8. He played his first 2 years at Georgia Tech prior to joining the Alabama Crimson Tide in 2022. At Alabama, 151 rushes for 926 yards in 12 games, 44 receptions for 444 yards with a 12.8% target share, right? This guy was really good at Alabama. He's 99th percentile 40-yard dash, 91st percentile speed score. He's only 5'9", 199 pounds, but for the draft, people are like, oh, this is DeAndre Swift. This is Alvin Kamara. Now, hopefully he doesn't beat the shit out of someone in a nightclub like Alvin Kamara, and we don't have to deal with that suspension, but Jahmyr Gibbs looks good. This is a Lions offense that might run him out wide early on the season when Jameson Williams is suspended for gambling. Jahmyr Gibbs is this fast bastard. Jared Goff, just dump him off the ball, and we'll see great things. Now, obviously, they have David Montgomery, so it's not like Jahmyr Gibbs is just this workhorse back. But I think, based upon pass-catching upside alone, Jahmyr Gibbs could easily finish inside the top 12. If you want to say, Nick, I think Harris should be here, or I think Etienne should be here, go ahead and argue with that. That's fine. Like, they're in the same tier as Jahmyr Gibbs. But I just like something I saw on tape for Jahmyr Gibbs, and I really like this Lions offense. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Again, make sure you guys check out Underdog Fantasy. Click on the link in the video description or use promo code Notorious for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So you want to deposit $100, you get an additional $150, additional $50, $25, and an additional $25. You get how it works. Love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great guys' day. And as always, good boy.